So you can see here the file system where we have been having the what is that, the user, right? From this user he is going to create the files, which in turn are residing in the file system, right? From this file system, they are being managed to the file system blocks, the arrangement of the files in the file system blocks. So this block is going to help us to fetch the data, and what is the where it is being created, when it is created, what is the type. Example is, you are been having the file. Once you create, what will be the size of the file, what is the type of the file, at what time you have been created, when you have been modified. So all that information is available in the file system blocks, and this is in turn mapped to the LVM, that is large volume manager logical extent. From this one we are been mapping it to the disk physical elements, and later it is mapped to your disk sectors where your files will be stored, right? From the user to your disk drive, this is the path it is going to follow to store a file in your disk drive. So this is the way it has been following. The next one, when I'm been talking about this file, so the file system, initially it starts from the, I can say, the root directory. So the root directory where you install your operating system, from there itself the file system start. And if you check your file system, you have been having so many subdirectories in that one. Now he tells here is the file system can be either a journaling file or a non-journaling file system. In a non-journaling file system, when he is mentioning here, you can check that one. He tells that if the system there is any sort of a failure, then there is a loss of those files, and you cannot. And whenever this updations and all is been taken, they have been written into the separate files. So if anything happens, like a system is going to crash, then what happens is the data will be corrupted or it can be lost. So you're not going to get any sort of the data back. For this one, I'll give you a very simple example is your mobiles. Whenever they say that there is a rebooting or there is updation, they say that make sure that there is enough power, there is there is no other activity being taking place, because whenever you write the data, that means the files are being getting transferred, there is a chance that it may lose or it will get corrupted, and after that that application will never be running. Okay, so if in case that happens, then the whole system will be crashed, you will not be able to get that one. Even whenever you are installing the operating system also, you can check that no other operation is being performed at that time. If in case something happens there, then your operating system will not be properly installed and you will not get back your system correct way. In the second one is a journaling file system, where it uses a separate area, what we call it as a log or record. I think in DBMS also you might have come across a log activity, right? What it is going to do is it is going to maintain a metadata, whatever you have been doing the activities, it is going to store. And in case something happens during that operation is breakdown, okay, then what it does is it is going to give us back all the files from where the point we have been stopped. For this example I want to give is, you have been preparing some presentations or you're doing some activity or you're typing a word document, and all of suddenly your system power goes off. Once again you restart that one and you open the same document, then you get a message that your files have been restored, do you want to restore the files from where you had been stopped, right? So if you, and whenever you are just copy and paste from one file to the another file system, At that time it is going to ask you, do you want to remove the files where you have already stored that one, and there will be option called as yes and no, right? So this is what is the journaling file system. So why I'm been talking this one is, this is important for us to know that how the files are being getting transferred, because even one single file, the txt file it can be there, or exec file it can be there, obj files it can be there, even one file goes missing, then I can say that the operations are not being done properly. The next one, we have been talking about the concept called as compute virtualization. So what it tells in this compute virtualization, it is a technique for masking or abstracting the physical compute hardware and enabling the multiple operating systems to run concurrently on a single or a clustered physical machine. So very much tedious definition. So we shall break it down. It's a technique of masking or abstracting a physical compute hardware. Hope everyone knows what is meaning of masking. That means showing it off as though the hardware is available. You try to seal the things, and you make them feel that there are multiple operating systems, though there will be only one operating system, but showing it as though there are multiple operating systems and make it run the multiple operations at the same time. Okay, now you can see here this a diagram where we have one single cpu, we have the network interface card, we have a memory, and we have the hard disk. When I'm been saying this memory, it is your ROM memory and your RAM memory. You can see that there are four devices for me available on this x86 architecture. You can see this virtualization layer, and you have the application, you have operating system. These are the different applications running on the same system. Now, when I have three applications running, then what happens for me? I should make available that there are the, I just want to say here, if I have here application 1, that is A, application B, and application C, and as I'm having these resources, I should make available all these resources. Now A is also requesting for CPU, and even A is requesting for the memory, right? He is being consumed with this all. At that same time, B is also requesting for memory, and he is requesting for the CPU time. C is also in need of this memory, and he is also in need of the CPU he has to allocate. Now, when this operation is being performed, then the CPU has to make sure that it's giving the time for each and every one. And the cpu can't say that B is asking, I'm doing the work of A, so I can't do that one, so it is not possible. So what is this exactly the virtualization I want to say is, if in case I say yesterday there is a application, and beneath this one we have called as operating system. In this operating system you have the hardware which is being covered, right? This whole together gives us the application. Yeah, when I'm been saying this one, this application, the virtualization, where does the virtualization concept lies? It lies between your operating system and the hardware. This part is acting as your virtualization concept, where multiple operating systems, you feel that it has been running on the multiple hardwares. That means here the operating system is playing a game with these applications and stating that yes, you have a multiple cpus, you have multiple memories. Now here the concept of virtualization is going on. So you can see over here, the first app is taking the operating system, there is only one operating system. Here also there is a second app having the operating system, the third also having the operating system. So every person feels that yes, I have a different operating system. Now in this VMware, that is what I've been said, virtualization, you can see here, for him also CPU is available, for him also network interface card is there, memory is there, and hard disk. So we are masking, we are pretending that there is each and every device available separately for everyone. Now this one, what it is called, the virtualization layer, they call it as hypervisor, right? So that they are pretending that it is being available for everyone, but actually in real it won't be there. Moving on to the next one. Now you can see here the need for the compute. Why do we need it? Now you can check in this one. There is a one single application having one particular OS and having all the components. But in this virtualization, you can see. Now, for example, I just want to say that I have just one application running, one OS. Now, this is only for one person. I am wasting so many devices. So let us say that this cost will come around 20,000. If in case, if 2,000 people have to use it, then 2,000 into 20,000 I have to multiply, right? So this will be the IT budget, okay, or the IT infrastructure budget, which is not taken by any of the IT people. They say that this much investment is waste. For that purpose only, the cost of the virtualization has come. So please understand this one. This virtualization is a biggest boon for ITs, because having only a one or a few resources, they are able to get the multiple works done. Okay, so this is called as the virtualization. It makes you feel that it is available for you, it is always available for you, right? So there are lots of benefits. Resource utilization, it can be done at every time, and it is also flexible, and it is available at the lower cost, right? Okay, the next one. We can see here even the desktop virtualization, right? The concept over here is, you are been having so many clients and so many people accessing this one. Here you can check here. There are many people connected here. They are using their PCs and their clients connected to the LAN, and they are using these applications they have been running. So this is a best example that is running in your companies, right? Because there's lots of virtualization, any person can access that one, they can access the multiple files, they can read the multiple files, they can write into the multiple files. Now, if every person has to be given a dedicated server, given a dedicated storage, then it becomes a very difficult task. So all that one is being compensated by this virtualization. So I can say virtualization is a boon for the whole software industry. Moving on to the next one, we have the last point is connectivity. Hope everyone knows what is this connectivity. Connectivity means to transfer the data between any two devices. How do I connect them? How do I link it? Right? Connectivity is interconnection, and how do I link them? Now you can check that this is a system where I'm having I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the system having the adapter for that one, the host adapter. There is a cable where I'm having these ports, and this is the disk. So whenever I want to transfer the data, I can just pass through this one using this particular ports. And these ports number are very much important to say that from which particular port who is requesting for the particular data. And when I'm been talking about this connectivity, then at that same time I need to make sure this connectivity is being used for this communication. When I link them, there is a communication being established. Now when there is a communication, then please remember, when I talk about the communication, then automatically I need to have these protocols. Any two people have to communicate, there is a protocol. So there is, what is that protocol is, I need some rules and regulations to make sure what sort of communication takes place. Is it a one-way communication, two-way communication? What sort of information has to be exchanged? When I've been talking about this connectivity, and then what are the components that are being needed? The first one is a host interface card, the next one is the port, and the third one is cable. Now you can check the port, the point from where the data has to be transferred, and from the point where the data has to be entered. And we have this host interface card. This is the cards you are having, like a network interface cards to exchange the data, and we need this cable. Without this cable, the transfer of the information is quite difficult. Then moving on to the next one, when we have this one, there are the various protocols, the interface protocols. The first one protocol he's been talking about is IDE slash ATA, right? What is this IDE slash ATA? Is integrated device electronics, and the another one is advanced technology attachment. So please remember that these are all the hardware components that have been needed to connect one another. I can say just like some cables, and if you have I think you people are aware, where behind the computer there used to be like 16 pins or 32 pin, where we used to connect it and transfer this data. There is another thing called as serial advanced technology attachment, that is called as SATA cable. They used to say this one. So whenever you want to transfer the data it in a serially, right, then they used to use this SATA cable. And whenever you want to transfer the data in a parallel mode, right, at that time they used to use this PATA, that is parallel advanced technology attachment. Now that same time we have this parallel computer system interface. So please remember these are all used to for connectivity and the communication, so that you can transfer the data from one point to the another point. Then we have this serial attached SCI, where that is also having the rules and regulations, what rate we have to transfer the data, what should be the speed, how many devices it can be connected, right? So you can see here some images I have got for you people. This is a SATA cable where they used to connect it, and this is a SCSI cable. You can see that the previous Pentium processors were there, they used to have this one. And this is your IDE cable. It used to be in a gray color, where it is used for your parallel transfer of the data. If in case once you return back to the college, if in case available, I can show it to you how they have been connected from your CDs and all. Whenever you have a hard disk drive or from your computers you want to transfer the data and all, they used to use this one, right? Moving on to the next one is a fiber channel. Nowadays these all cables are being replaced, they're using this internet protocol and they're using this fiber channel. The fiber latest version is saying 16FC, but when I just googled, we have been having generation 7, generation 8. In By 2020 we'll be getting where it is going to transfer more than 256 gigabits per second. That means 256 bits per second will be transferred. That is the rate of the data it has been transferred, that speed you are going to get the data. So these are all being used to make sure how faster the data will be transferred, and at the same time it is used for the storage purpose also. So please remember, this is all the basics that you have been come across for the data center environment.